Now we move on to our next news. U.S. senators from both parties are set to introduce 3 new bipartisan bills this week targeting China over its human rights abuses, treatment of dissidents, and military pressure on Taiwan. The legislation highlights growing concerns in Congress that President Donald Trump's focus on trade talks with Beijing is overshadowing national security and human rights priorities. The bills, backed by both Democrats and Republicans, mark a rare moment of unity in Washington. While many lawmakers support Trump's push for a better trade deal, some China hawks worry the administration is downplaying China's broader threat. Democratic Senator Jeff Markey, a lead sponsor, warned that the U.S. cannot afford to appear weak in the face of Chinese aggression and called for American foreign policy to remain rooted in freedom and human rights, regardless of who is president. The White House insists Trump is committed to Asia-Pacific security while maintaining good relations with Chinese President Xi Jinping. China has not yet responded to the proposed legislation. Now we go back to our discussion with Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Thank you, Raymond, for staying with us. Now, given this rare bipartisan support for these bills, how might this influence the future U.S. foreign policy, particularly in terms of aligning both parties on issues related to China?
Well, thanks again for having me. It seems to me that this latest action, the introduction of these 3 bills having to do with the human rights of Uyghurs and Taiwan, are significant. You know, President Trump has looked at the world in transactional terms. I'm going to make a deal on economic relations, and that will solve problems. But values are still important to many people who are in the Congress and in politics in the United States. And it seems to me that these 3 bills with bipartisan support show the continuing saliency of values in the foreign policy of the United States. The one by Senator Cornyn from Texas is particularly important because he is in leadership. This is one which emphasizes the rights of the Uyghurs and human rights generally, which have been tread on by China. So I think that this will have some effect. The interesting part is going to be as to how much President Trump and Secretary Rubio are going to pay attention to this. As I've said, their approach is one of transactions and being able to say, yes, President Trump is the greatest thing ever. And to have others who are taking a broader point of view is not necessarily in their playbook. So this is going to require some further coordination in Washington to get values back into American foreign policy.
Thank you very much, Raymond Vickery, for joining us and sharing your insight as a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce all the way from Washington. Now we move on to our next news. EU's top negotiator